Hallo zusammen zurück bei Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments. Was macht der Watson hier? Kann man den anquatschen?
This green grand mystic fellow seems rather suspicious, Holmes.
Ja, und
What
warum
should
machst
we
du die
do
gleichen
next,
Übungen?
Holmes?
Wir nehmen den Tobi mal.
Come on, Toby. We have some work for you to do. Let us go to Kew Gardens. Oh dear, Toby. I wasn't aware that you were Watson's new literary agent.
Na, mal gucken, ob er jetzt mitkommt dann. Der Tobi. Letztes Mal war er ja dann nicht mehr auf dem Platz. Doch, da ist er. Jetzt sitzt er mit in der Kutsche. Diese Tür sieht hier aus, als wenn mal jeden Moment aufgeht und alle rausfallen. Also so kaum geschlossen.
Let us take Toby to the laboratory. He will pick up the scent of this mysterious substance. Search, Toby. Search.
So, jetzt darf ich wieder hier eine grüne Spur verfolgen. Was, der Hund kann jetzt auf einmal die Türen alleine aufmachen? Okay. Wo geht denn diese Spur hin?
Congratulations, Toby. Now let us see what you have found.
Ach, jetzt bin ich wieder Sherlock. Okay.
This
Was
is
haben wir
the
denn
bottle
da?
that was used in the laboratory. There is still some liquid remaining in the bottle, with gold flakes.
Okay.
A tiny caterpillar. Not surprising to see one in a garden, but at the bottom of a bottle.
Gut. Das mit Tobi ist abgeschlossen. Jetzt gucken wir uns mal hier nochmal um.
Nursery.
Watson, du stehst im Weg. Nicht, dass wir hier beim letzten Mal irgendwas übersehen haben. Was ist das hier für ein Haufen? Oh, kann ich sogar untersuchen. Was haben wir denn da? Eine Büste.
It is a
Dann.
bust of Montague Dunn.
Und schaut mal hier, da fehlt was.
I am curious if the marble that we found will fit this place.
Na, sicherlich.
Here it is. The marble fragment that we found in the Colonial Collection Room is what they have in common.
So, dann quatschen wir jetzt mal mit dem Typen hier draußen.
What is your opinion of Albert as a student of botany?
He's useless. I often tell him so, and I can only give him cleaning tasks. Botany is not his life's work, and his father well knew it. He was furious about it.
He was.
Oh yes, he forced his son to work here, and he never missed an opportunity to criticize him publicly.
Are you able to elaborate on that?
Well, For example, with our last exhibition here, Mr. Dunn had Albert make a presentation speech. But then, while the lad was speaking, Mr. Dunn interrupted him, asking him difficult questions, making him look like a failure. It was with the intention of making a fool of him, Mr. Holmes.
That must have been terribly humiliating.
Yes, he was crushed, and he had to leave. Everybody was making fun of poor Albert. That is, except for Miss Margaret White, who is such a nice lady and who always takes pity on Albert.
You mentioned a Miss White. Would you tell us more about her?
She is a student who works here part-time. She is quite charming indeed. She possesses a great talent for botany. You should take a look at some of her experiments that she carried out in the laboratory. Ah, if only she were not so naive.
Why naive?
The way she used to flutter around Mr. Montague Dunn. And he couldn't help but be flattered by all her attention. How could an intelligent woman such as Miss White not see through his game? I can only scratch my head and wonder.
Mr. Hamish, was someone from your family connected with Kew Gardens?
Family? No. I'm the only one with a passion for botany.
I do not think so. This photograph of you and your father at Kew Gardens suggests the opposite.
But you have no right to.
Do tell us more about your father.
He was, indeed, the greatest botanist of his time in the British Empire. He worked together with Montague Dunn until the end of his life. He brought me in at the age of 12.
Did he get on well with Mr. Dunn?
No, I couldn't say that. They expanded Kew Gardens together, that was all. And it was all my father's work, for Dunn always lived the high life.
So Mr. Dunn was not helping your father?
Oh, yes, he provided the financial support. And as far as he was concerned, that fulfilled his role. But the worst of it was, he declared himself as the master of Kew Gardens. Fame meant nothing to my father, so it was easy for Mr. Dunn to take all the credit.
Are you aware of the Divine Syndicate?
The Divine what? Is this a joke?
No, I am quite serious.
What a ridiculous name. Anyway, I have never heard of this syndicate.
There is a bust of Montague Dunn in the nursery.
A bust? Oh, that old thing. Further proof of that outrageous ego of his.
But why in that room in particular?
Oh, I don't know. It has always been there.
Die stand da aber nicht, die lag da.
It is strange, because I recovered a fragment of the bust inside the Colonial Collection Room.
Really? Oh, well, so I am mistaken. It ought to have been removed during the cleanup. This room is so small.
Do you know who moved it?
I have no idea. Surely Mr. Dunn requested it. Do you have any more questions like this? Because fragments of rock are not my responsibility.
Evidently. Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
Okay, dann schauen wir mal, was wir hier haben. Nee, es haut nicht hin. Alberts. Alberts Motiv. Albert hatte ein Motiv für den Mord an seinem Vater. Dieser hatte seinen Traum zerstört, sich der Royal Navy anzuschließen. Durch den Mord hätte sich Albert nicht nur gerecht, sondern auch die Nachfolge seines Vaters als Direktor von Kew Gardens übernehmen können. Naja, will er ja nicht. Nee, ich bin ja noch nicht fertig hier. Das, okay, passt sogar. Sektestall alles. Nee, das hatten wir ja schon. Wo ist denn das jetzt hier? Diebstahl und Mord? Ah, hier, glaube ich. Hamish Motiv. Martin Hamish hatte ein Motiv. Er glaubte, Dunn habe ihm und seinem Vater das Leben ruiniert, indem er das ganze Lob für ihre Verdienste eingeheimst hatte. Hamish wollte die Leitung der Gärten übernehmen, wusste jedoch, dass nicht dass das nicht möglich war, solange dann lebt. Nee, das passt alles nicht. Passt auch nicht. Nee, das passt alles nicht. Okay, da fehlen dann noch Sachen. Dann schauen wir mal, was wir jetzt als nächstes machen sollen. Finden Sie heraus. Mhm. Wir gehen mal zurück in die Baker Street. Und bringen den Hund zurück. Vielleicht kann ich ja am Labortisch jetzt irgendwas experimentieren mit diesem Zeug, was ich da gefunden habe. Und diese Pflanzen haben wir ja auch eingesteckt. Der macht schon wieder hier sein Tai Chi. Ja, schaut mal, kann man analysieren.
Let us determine just what we have found here. Let us pour liquid from the bottle into a test tube to perform an analysis. This is the bottle that we found hidden at Kew Gardens. Let us use a pipette to take a sample of the liquid and fill a test tube.
Hat er nicht von nur einem gesprochen?
A colorless, water-based liquid. Quite a strong floral aroma.
Nee, das macht er jetzt nicht ernsthaft.
Holmes? What are you doing?
Gut,
It
trinke
has
ich
a
einfach mal
bitter
unbekannte
taste.
Flüssigkeiten.
What if it's poisonous?
Did you ever see poison stored in enormous jars like that? Anyway, there is a doctor nearby.
So what do you think it is?
It is some kind of organic compound. Let us vaporize the liquid and see what happens.
Das habe ich immer gerne gemacht im Chemieunterricht.
Small colorless crystals. Colorless, tiny crystals that are soluble in water with a floral smell and a bitter taste. Watson, could you pass me that small bottle, please?
Of course. Here you are. Holmes, do you know what it is?
Wagner's reagent. There was a label on the bottle that you passed to me.
No, Holmes, I meant the bottle that we found.
Let me add the reagent and see if there is any sediment, and then I shall tell you. I need to take a pipette
Aha,
and make
ja,
several
natürlich. Wir
drops
können
of
es
the
nicht einfach
reagent.
reinkippen.
Red sediment, just as I suspected. This liquid is of organic origin. It contains some alkaloid. Most likely it is unstable, and that is why there is a quantity of gold dust to prevent contamination. This mixture is probably a fertilizer. Someone was carrying out unusual experiments in the garden's laboratory.
Gut, das passt zusammen. Mit Pflanzen experimentieren. Führen Sie ein Experiment mit den tödlichen Pflanzen durch. Okay. Machen wir das.
According to the deadly plants information, in order to perform our experiment, we will need fertilizer and food. Caterpillars should do nicely. According to the deadly plants
Aber wir hatten doch die
information,
Raupen
in order to
eingesammelt.
perform our experiment, we will need fertilizer and food. Caterpillars should do nicely. My analysis table. It is useful for my work.
Wir hatten die doch eingesammelt. Ja, dann fahren wir hier nochmal hier hin. Vielleicht hat er das irgendwie nicht richtig gespeichert. Ich meine, mir war so, als hätte ich da reingegriffen und hätte die Raupen rausgeholt. Gut, dann geht's nochmal da rein. Wir wissen ja, wo die Raupen sind. Guten Tag, bitte nicht stören lassen. Ne, hier waren sie, glaube ich, nicht. Hier war das. Oder kann ich das hier vielleicht direkt machen?
This cabinet is full of chemicals. They are the same as the ones we found in the laboratory at
Ja,
Kew Gardens.
ja. Das nehmen
This
wir mal mit.
substance is an alkaloid, the same as in the bottle we found in the bushes at Kew Gardens. Perfect, Watson. We can begin our experiment.
Kann ich das gleich hier machen? Scheinbar nicht. Ich gucke trotzdem nochmal nicht, dass ich die Raupen doch nochmal mitnehmen muss. Zwar was gesagt, von wegen er braucht die, aber mir ist so, als ob ich die dabei hatte schon längst. Wir waren doch hier dran. Hier waren sie doch drin. Da kommen wir auch nicht mehr dran. Okay. Ja, dann fahren wir wieder zurück. Geht's halt wieder zurück. So. Jetzt müsste es genau.
I imagine that one of these plants would be capable of releasing a toxic vapor. I need to find out exactly how it could be done. I shall begin now. Watson, if you are at all optimistic to have dinner this evening, then I'd recommend that you put on the gas mask. How interesting. What a strong and effective defensive mechanism. This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid. I find the behavior of predators utterly fascinating. It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid. It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas. I wonder what secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more. I am interested in what might occur if the prickly plant should shoot at it. It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid. This plant seems to have had no reaction from the caterpillars. This plant becomes inactive after being drenched with alkaloid. A prickly plant. This plant seems to have had no reaction from the caterpillars. It closed again. I believe I saw a small cloud of gas.
Die habe
I
ich hier
wonder
beim
what
letzten Mal
secrets this plant is hiding. Perhaps if we agitate it to a greater extent whilst it is opened, it will reveal a little more. I am interested in what might occur if the prickly plant should shoot at it.
Also nochmal aufmachen.
It appears to open after being soaked with alkaloid.
Wie waren das? Wie hatten die geschossen?
I find the behavior of predators utterly fascinating.
Jetzt, oder? Ha, jetzt hat's geklappt. Die standen nur verkehrt rum.
Toxic gas with spores. Extraordinary. The plants would be capable of killing only if they were directly next to the victim and stimulated at precisely the right moment.
Let us take our caterpillars to the Colonial Collection Room. We may see things more clearly there.
It is too early, Watson. Our suspects will be there. Let us investigate Kew Gardens one more time and ask some questions.
Mordplan der Sekte. Teilweise oder alles? Gucken wir mal. Ah, scheint aber nicht ganz so hinzuhauen. Also so rummachen, dann können wir sagen, die Sekte hat ihn getötet. Schauen wir mal, wir können ja nochmal, hat er gesagt, hier nochmal zu Kew Gardens und nochmal mit den Leuten sprechen. Ja, der gießt immer noch dieselbe Stelle. Muss ja schon voll wässrig sein.
Can you tell me if you saw Mr. Montague Dunn on the day of his death?
Yes, of course. I met him, and we went to see Albert, his son, at around 9:30. He appeared quite calm.
What were you doing on the morning of the accident?
After paying multiple visits to Albert, I had a little talk with Miss White. Then I returned to my desk to complete some paperwork. Suddenly I observed that Mr. Dunn was not feeling well, so I ran immediately to fetch Albert. I clearly remember that it was around 10:30, for I was late that morning.
Thank you, Mr. Hamish. We shall continue our investigation.
So, dann suchen wir mal die anderen alle. Da ist er ja schon.
Your father's death does seem highly suspicious. What were your movements here on that day?
Suspicious? Well, I was working in the seed house, taking care of Lysa something, or Lear Pontus, or... No, wait. Ah, these Latin names. And I spent so many hours trying to memorize them.
Did you see your father that day?
Yes. He came here with Mr. Hamish for his weekly visit. There was nothing unusual about that.
And then?
Nothing. They stepped out to the backyard. It was perhaps 20 minutes before 10 o'clock. Then about 10 minutes later, I saw my father heading for the dry tropics room while Mr. Hamish returned here.
And Mr. Hamish and Miss White, what were they both doing that morning?
Mr. Hamish visited me a couple of times. I also saw him returning from talking with Miss White, and that was at 10 minutes past 10. But then he ran back here to me to tell me that my father was feeling unwell. We hurried across to the water lily room, and I found my father lying dead on the floor. Oh my God.
Tell me, have you ever heard of the Divine Syndicate?
No, I cannot say that I have.
Thank you, young man. We shall see you again soon.
Okay, Leute. Die Miss White befragen wir beim nächsten Mal. Für heute war's das. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Bis bald. Tschüssi.